even if it's for 10 minutes, please do something for yourself, even if it's a simple walk and you switch off your devices and you just have a bit of time for yourself.
Welcome to the Be Well podcast, wellness backed by science, bringing you inspiring conversations to help you on your wellness journey to a healthier, happier you. Brought to you by Breast Cancer UK. You can start your personal prevention journey right now by taking our prevention quiz. Just click on the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome to the Be Well podcast. I'm Thalie Martini, CEO of Breast Cancer UK. Now today, I'm thrilled to be joined by a wellness coach, a personal trainer and a published author whose mission is to help all ages to feel good, physically and mentally. Now, she has a raft of accolades for her work in helping people to reduce their risk of diseases through exercise, with a particular focus on the South Asian community. Now, she became a huge sensation during the COVID lockdown when she offered free all-ages health and fitness workouts, for which she's received an MBE, the British Asian Trust British Asian Heroes Award, which was endorsed by the Prime Minister, the Women of the Future Kindness Rules Programme, BBC's Make a Difference, and the She Awards Inspiration in Health and Fitness 2020. All of this for her incredible COVID work. Now, in her book, The Feel Good Fix, she introduces a wonderful concept of exercise snacking. And I find this really intriguing. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it because it's all about treating your body and mind to short bites, something we're all quite familiar with in today's society. Everything seems to be in small bites, so it feels very appropriate. But it's small bite-sized exercise throughout the day. And we love that idea at Breast Cancer UK because as a prevention-focused organisation, we're always really, really keen to hear about wonderful ways to promote regular physical activity. So I could go on. There's so much more to find out about my guest. So it's about time I introduce her so she can tell her story herself. So I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Lavina Mehta to our podcast. Welcome, Lavina. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, what a lovely intro. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm really pleased to have you along because there's so much I want to learn about your work. First of all, you are a personal trainer. And your mission is all about making people feel good. I love that. And you have this really catchy motto, exercise for sanity, not vanity, which I really love. But, you know, we all have a bit of vanity as well. But The fact that the focus is on sanity is very interesting. So please, could we start by you telling us a bit about this? How did you get to where you are today? And how does your motto apply to your philosophy as well?
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, exercise for sanity, not vanity is something that I came up with in the pandemic, but I think really resonates with me now, being 47 and in midlife, and I've just hit the menopause. But it's really reframing the way we look at exercise. Like I really want people to, yes, we all want to look good, feel good, but there's so much more in the power of exercise on the things that we can't see, like all the magic that's happening inside our bodies, from reducing risks of so many chronic illnesses and diseases like breast cancer, to the mental health benefits of exercise. And, you know, I came up with this Instagram, YouTube handle, Feel Good with Lavina, by chance. But it's really those feel-good endorphins, those happy hormones, which we can release, you know, for free anytime you do a little bit of movement, you know, things that you enjoy that I think can make such a difference in our busy, stressful lives. And I guess kind of where I am now is something I never imagined, because I was telling you before we started that I was never sporty, I was never into exercise growing up, and I only requalified as a personal trainer at the age of 40 after leaving my corporate career and becoming a mum to 3 amazing boys by chance, because it was only something that I discovered in my mid to late 30s, and I just wanted to study and learn about it for my own personal knowledge, never thinking it would be a career or never thinking I'd have this amazing opportunity to sit down and share this on your platform. But it just, I guess, shows, and I hope, our conversation inspires anyone listening and watching, that it really is never too late, and that you can start off small, and, even in terms of career and finding joy in your life and finding your purpose. I guess, I'm doing things that I love now that I probably never would have imagined I'm doing if I was little Lavina.
That's incredible, and it chimes so much with the work that we do, the kind of little changes over time. It's never too late. These all chime exceptionally well with us.
Right.
And I mentioned in my intro, actually, that you've introduced this concept of exercise snacking, which I'm really fascinated. And from my understanding, it's really, really successful as well. So I'd like to find out from you if you can explain to us what this idea is behind this bite-sized movement. And also, why is it better than, say, the longer form exercise that most people kind of associate with physical activity?
Yeah. So whenever I say exercise snacking, hopefully now it's becoming more mainstream, thanks to, I think, like you said, us being ready for this. But I actually discovered the concept in 2018 when I was on my own wellness journey. I said, like, in my mid-30s, I was nearly double my size. I was definitely on the road to type 2 diabetes. I probably had it because it's so rife in my own family and my community. And it was, when I was I joined the gym once my youngest son got into kindergarten. And it was when I discovered strength training that's when I really felt that transformation, not just physically, but mostly that mental transformation that gave me so much empowerment and strength just to get through, the ups and downs of life. And exercise snacking was this study that I was researching, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing just to know. And if nobody knows, what it is, if anyone listening doesn't know what it is, it's literally, like you said, short bouts of movement through the day, but I'm talking as short as a minute, even as short as a couple of seconds, which I've referenced with studies in my book. And those little amounts, if we spread them and sprinkle them through our day, and I mean just tying it onto existing habits, so hopefully it becomes part of your lifestyle, they can be as effective, if not more effective, than the longer, 30 to 60-minute workout that a lot of us either can't fit into our busy lives, or if some of us are doing in the morning, and you might be super efficient and getting your workout done, which I definitely advocate for. If you can do it, please continue to do it. But what I do find is that a lot of people do it in the morning, and then, so many of us are just sitting most of the day, whether you're working from home, we'll be on this podcast and I'll be like having that 30-minute alarm clock in my internal, body saying, let's get up and do
Yeah, my watch will tell me to get up before we finish.
Yeah, let's do something, even if it's just some squats or some heel raises or something that we can do to activate our muscles and get, the blood and our joints and everything a little bit more lubricated. But yeah, it's just a game changer, I feel, because, when we're sitting for 10 hours a day, we know that all of our risks of chronic illness increase. Women, even in midlife, it's proven that we become more sedentary, and especially as we age. So it's trying to explain to people that on the days that maybe, you don't feel like exercising, like I'm sure your listenership will relate, those days where your body just might be feeling really low, your energy's low, you've been through a lot, you're lacking motivation or you're lacking time. It's just knowing that these little minutes that you could do, and obviously the more the better, they are just as good, if not more than good, right?
Yeah. That is really interesting. And how do you hear from people who read your book and people who follow your Instagram posts? What do they say about this adaptable approach?
The feedback has been so positive. So obviously I started doing the exercise snacks in the pandemic when I wasn't planning on being on social media or public facing, but I grabbed my husband and youngest son just even before the lockdown was announced. And I started, sensing that people were feeling like we can't go to gyms, and there was more people, congregating in their homes, wondering what was going on. And it was the power from that day and the feedback that I've had that's helped continue this mission. But what I love is hearing people just say to me that, this is just achievable. This is something I feel I can do. And it's all about taking that first step and having that confidence, to maybe just start, and then you feel those endorphins, you feel the benefits, you may feel, especially through things like perimenopause and menopause and things that I've been going through, but everything, common symptoms that we experience, from anxiety and stress reduction to maybe not being able to sleep. And we know that exercise can do wonders on all of these things. The feedback has been so positive, and even the science is showing that actually exercise snacks can be really effective at helping to lower people's blood pressure, blood cholesterol, blood fat levels, blood sugar levels, to metabolism, to obviously helping with maintaining a healthy weight, which is obviously important. And that feedback is amazing, right? When I hear someone's gone to their GP and they've come back with, I've reversed type 2 diabetes, or, my chronic back pain has got so much better, or my osteoarthritis, or my bone density has increased. I mean, those are the sort of measurable health benefits. Then I think, oh my God, that's just incredible, just through the power of movement.
And they are so immediate, aren't they? Like us at Breast Cancer UK, your passion is empowering people, and I hear you describing it, and then getting that feedback must be really rewarding. Yeah. Empowering people to reduce their risk of all of these preventable illnesses that physical activity can help us with. What I really love is that you reframe the idea of lifespan by calling it health span. Yeah. And that's a really interesting way to reframe it. And I think for all of society to reframe the idea around, well, what's our life? Is it how long we live or how well we live?
Yeah.
And for instance, when it comes to breast cancer, we know that regular physical activity can reduce our risk by about 20%, which is really quite significant. So you've already mentioned other health conditions where there's immediate effect. So, the list goes on in terms of the benefits of physical activity. But going back to your exercise snacks idea, can you explain to us a bit more about how these exercise snacks can help women who, in particular, as you mentioned, struggle with consistent physical activity? So, motivating someone to kind of start something, we can do that fairly easily. It's that kind of keeping it up. And how is that relevant to this idea of lifespan as well?
Yes, you may have seen, I also do workouts with my amazing, she's now 79. 70. My mom's 79. She sometimes does them with me. She's 77, but my mother-in-law joined me in the pandemic after a little bit of persuasion. And we actually do low-impact chair-based workouts. They're called feel-good workouts, and they're all saved on my YouTube channel. Totally free to join. We do them every Friday at 10 o'clock. Wow. And I think that's like another way, where I think about how well we're going to live, not necessarily how long we're going to live, because we know that, in terms of that last decade or last few years of your life, how we can try and future-proof our bodies to try and stay as independent and as strong as possible for as long as possible. And she demonstrates that beautifully with me. And we've had actually up to the age of 100 join us from a care home with, she had dementia, bless her. So when I see these regular, 70, 80, 90-year-olds join me, and several of them actually have had breast cancer, some of my community that join, and I talk to them on Zoom afterwards. That to me is just so inspiring, so motivating, but they're also doing things on their chairs, in the comfort of their homes, on their sofas, some of them, in their living rooms, in their bedrooms, in their pajamas, wherever they want. I think that's the beauty of what I'm trying to get across, is that you don't have to have fancy equipment. We want to try and break down like the barriers of cost, time and motivation. You don't have to step out of your home if you're feeling a little bit crap and under the weather. It's how we can get this movement in. But I think what I really emphasize is obviously things like strength training and the importance of strength training, especially for women. Muscle mass is probably the key to longevity. I often say that. And it's not just about the fact that the more muscle you have, the more calories you'll burn at rest. So it does help with weight loss and maintaining a healthy weight. But it's about our strength. Like we release these incredible, they're called hope molecules, called myokines. And I'm going into the science of all this. Every time your muscles are contracted, and it's proven to be an antidepressant, strength training. There's just so many benefits of the strength, but also just the simple movement. Like I call them sit and stands on my Friday free workouts. We know they're squats, but just think about the squat. And if I ask someone, I often say when the kettle's boiling, get in your squats, or if you're sitting too long in meetings, in between meetings, try and always get your squats in, because that's the one exercise I call the king lower body exercise. It's going to recruit all your lower body muscles and your core. But it's the functional movement. We're trying to mimic, how we can get up out of a chair as we get older, on and off the toilet, in and out of the car, on and off your bed. So it's
all those things that are important for continued independence as well.
Exactly. So it's thinking about that health span, and also thinking about the things that you want to do later in life, the things that you enjoy, be it hiking, be it playing with your grandchildren, being able to maybe lift them up, overhead, like I talk about the shoulder press, or I talk about how you can just carry your shopping, continuing your walking. It's a real reframe, right? It's not just about looks and aesthetics anymore. For me, it's about how I can hopefully live as well as possible for as long as possible. So it's getting those messages out that I'm really passionate about. And obviously when I see those older people join me, I feel like, okay, that's such a breakthrough. And especially, like you mentioned, in the South Asian community, where a lot of this, I never knew about the power of nutrition and exercise and lifestyle changes until I started researching them. And that's part of my mission, is because as a community, we've never really been educated on the importance of these things. And I feel like, times are changing, which is great. But there's still so much work to be done, right?
And I think there would be for some women in the South Asian community, talking about health, talking about the body might be a bit taboo. So a couple of questions really. First of all, how do you overcome that? And secondly, how has working with your mother-in-law helped you overcome some of those barriers as well?
Oh gosh, so many barriers, unfortunately, in my community, because we've never really talked about women's health. Even growing up, thinking about my own conversations and my family, there's always been taboos around periods, menstruation, sex, like pregnancy, and then obviously menopause. So women's health has always had these taboos around them. I never saw anyone growing up that looked like me in the wellness, fitness space. I never imagined I'd be a 40-year-old personal trainer, from an Indian background, being quite public facing. And, you probably see on my social media, I'm quite open and honest, and I do try and, I guess, be hopefully relatable and genuine and real. I think that's really important, so that South Asian women can see someone that looks like them, that's talking about the things that maybe they've kept so hidden and so ashamed. There's a lot of shame around things like periods, that are in the community. And it's generational stigmas and taboos that we're trying to break here. So there's a lot of work to be done. I've gone into temples, I've gone into community centres. I did a lot of streaming, from the pandemic, but continued that in actual communities, because there's so many different castes and different types of communities in the South Asian umbrella. And for me, I may be...
it's not one community, it's many.
I'm like one small... I'm from a Jain community. I'm not even Hindu, but you'll see that I like to be inclusive. So I will go and do workouts for Ramadan to help people, through their fasting, to any community that will have me. I've probably tried to try and tap into it, just hopefully to be a voice and to represent and to obviously share my own experiences, which is hopefully, I think, the best way to try and break through and kind of see that change, because, I'm really open and honest about everything that I go through. But yeah, I think it's times are changing. The best thing is, having men come into the conversations, seeing my own dad or my husband or my 3 boys. I'm hoping that they're aware of everything from periods to perimenopause, to menopause and beyond, so that they can support all the women in their lives, whether it's in the workplace or at home or their future partners. So that's really important. But yeah, it's a work in progress, I would say. And, just culturally, like women, when I first when I first qualified as a PT, I had to involve a few friends to actually get the qualification. And I still didn't tell anyone. I was sneakily doing all the courses in the evening after the kids were asleep. And I just told my family, Mum's doing exams, but I'm just doing something out of my own knowledge. I want to learn about it because it's been so amazing for me. And at first, I only trained women. The friends that found out, they were like, can you train me? So I said, okay, come home. I've got some equipment in my basement. And I was training women one-to-one. And that was what I really noticed, is that obviously so many women, going back 10 years, were at that point really daunted about going into the gym environment and having other people watch them when they're exercising. So I think that in our community, being South Asian, is a big barrier.
True.
So having a female trainer, like having, someone like my mother-in-law, that breaks a lot of taboos around getting on with your mother-in-law is a whole other subject. Most people think I'm training with my mum, and I'm like, no, she is my mum. And you can create a bond and find something that you can both, get so much joy out of. I feel like giving back has brought me the most joy. When you listed all those things at the beginning, I mean, it was lovely to hear, but it's knowing if I can just help one person a day, that's always kind of been the goal.
Yeah. How fabulous. And then also to see how, you mentioned over 10 years, how you feel that things are, it is a work in progress.
Yeah.
There's still much work to do, but you've obviously been instrumental in really starting a process that will lead to that change. And, even when you mentioned strength work for women, I mean, that is such a relatively new concept for all women, regardless of their background, to think about. And, because I would say my mother's generation, even my generation, that whole idea of working on building strength was seen to be really not what women do.
No.
Because it was always about, well, what does it mean for what I end up looking like, rather than my health. So even that shift in mindset, and I've seen a difference, because even in myself in the past 5-10 years, I've changed my own mindset.
Yay.
And I think it becomes infectious when women start to understand just what the benefits are and how huge they are.
Yes.
Those immediate health impacts, reducing risk of other diseases, things like diabetes, heart disease, breast cancer, as we mentioned, but then the immediate impact. You mentioned as well that your description of movement also is that it's a free antidepressant. So what are the psychological benefits of exercise, snacking, that you're a great ambassador for?
So I hope everyone listening tries some snacks out for themselves and let me know what benefits you feel. But, even if we were to just do 20 seconds of shadow boxing, like literally I get all ages, just get some tin cans or just do them without any weights and just punch out in the air and just shuffle your feet, walk, jog, run on the spot, 20 seconds. I guarantee you're going to feel a little bit uplifted. You're going to feel a little bit less stressed, less anxious. The science is so incredible. I mean, it is showing, like I said, it's an antidepressant. I mean, I feel like if that was, it's just a free drug, right? That we hopefully can get that ripple effect. Like once you start experiencing it, I think then you'll think, okay, I need that in my toolkit, because we know, especially with stress, our fast-paced, busy lives, like when I go into workplaces and I talk to everyone from CEOs to the main, like the whole overall workforce, the biggest thing I hear about is obviously stress, or I don't have time to exercise, I don't have the motivation, right? But we know that, the other snacks, like in my book, not even just exercise snacking, but I have things, from the mind snacks. So things like breath work, I call them breath snacks, to nature snacks, mental health. There's a whole section, a third of the book is actually on mental health. things like journaling, gratitude, like a lot of, and it's all backed by science. For me, I've had to write 40 pages of references of studies.
This is the book we're talking about.
But yeah, like even if I said to you, so I'm just thinking out loud, it's something that I start all my feel-good workouts out on YouTube. So if anyone wants some variety, that's a great resource, as well as the book. If we just did a minute's breath work, like when I found out that you can reset and rewire your nervous system from that fight or flight mode that a lot of us are in our fast-paced lives, to the parasympathetic mode, which is more your rest and digest and relaxation mode, just in a minute. I mean, I use it all the time. I used it before I came on here today while I was walking up the road. It's just a great tool that I want everyone to know. And that could just be, for example, breathing in for 4 and exhaling for 6. Anytime your exhale is longer than your inhale, it's going to help calm the body and mind. So it's having like a selection of tools, from the exercise snacks to the mind snacks to I have, self-care and lots of things around that I want people to kind of pick and choose from. So it's not prescriptive. It's nice because I want you to have a bit of variety and try things out. Yes, I want all women to be strength training, but obviously it covers things like mobility and stretching and just doing a 3 or even a minute stretch before bed. And that's going to help you calm the body and mind, tie it in with your breath. It's going to also help the quality of your sleep. It's getting these snacks in that you enjoy. I think that's the key, is that you've got to find things that obviously that you like, but also how you can fit them into your lifestyle, be it like the balanced snacks that I want people to do to reduce their risks of falls. And balance is something that we lose in our midlife, right?
Yeah, and it's something interesting to talk about is the fall prevention that balance work does.
Yes.
Because I didn't realise this until fairly recently, that one of the biggest indicators of kind of mortality in older people is a fall.
Balance, yeah. If you lose your balance.
Yeah.
So I've written extensively about this. One of the things I do mention always is that just 10 seconds, being able to balance on your leg for 10 seconds is one of your biggest predictors of your longevity. There's quite a morbid study in the book, but if you're not able to do it, and obviously please just start, because it does take practice like with everything else. If you can't balance on one leg for 10 seconds, you're twice as likely to have a premature death in the next decade. And I'm very careful when I kind of say this. I don't want to alarm people, but what I want to encourage is like, okay, wow, that's like I got the reaction, but what can you do about it? We could just start balancing, and you might just do 3 seconds if I asked you now. But what I try and get people to do is balance on one leg when they're brushing their teeth. And there's a brush your teeth snack in there with different targets based on your age range. I think I'm 47, so I think it's about aiming to do about 50 seconds on one leg. But you've got your sink, you've got your, you're brushing your teeth, so you're doing that morning and night. So I now, for the last year and a half, since before all the research for the book, I've just been doing this, and it's become literally second nature. Everyone knows I'm balancing on one leg when I brush my teeth. I do about a minute on each side. I then can progress by maybe trying to close my eyes. So I now do about 10 to 15 seconds with my eyes shut. It is so important because we know that as women, we have a higher risk of falls, especially things like hip fractures that can affect your quality of life and your mortality. And, osteoporosis, all of these things are silent killers, I hate to say that. Our bone health is so important, just like our muscle health. Like, it's all connected. They work hand in hand. So reducing risks of falls is one of, the things that I'm so passionate about, that's part of my feel-good fitness prescription. It's kind of the balance, the mobility, the cardio, the strength, and the stretch. So those are kind of like the 5 areas that I would love everyone to cover with exercise snacking. And we did touch on, before I came on, that I was saying to you, 11 minutes a day is actually a study that I found.
An odd number.
I know. It was like a sort of a guardian angel sent me that study while I was walking to the publishers kickoff meeting, and I was thinking most people don't hit the government guidelines of exercise, and we know how important it is. Like you said, around 20% prevent in terms of preventing breast cancer if you hit the guidelines, and even once. Even to prevent recurrence, I think the statistics around
they're even higher,
30 to 40%.
Well, I think it's a risk of recurrence is significantly reduced if you've had a breast cancer diagnosis.
Yes.
But then also the risk of mortality from your diagnosis is drastically reduced by about 40%.
It's 40%, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've also read this morning around how important we're talking about strength training that can increase those numbers even further if you focus on the strength training. And there's a lot of studies that are coming out about that. But so I've lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Well, actually, you're talking us through your book, The 11 Minutes. And while you're on the 11 minutes, what I'm interested in knowing as well is how this works as a toolkit for people, because I know that's what you call it, your the feel-good fix.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 11 minutes, I think it's more... it's just less daunting. It's more achievable for people. The government guidelines are a lot higher, and I wanted a good way for people to start. So this study came in and it said, if you can hit 11 minutes a day, and that can be broken up into these little snacks, it doesn't have to be 11 minutes in total, which I think is, the message we're trying to get across. It can reduce 1 in 10 premature deaths in the next decade, 1 in 20 cases of cardiovascular disease, and 1 in 30 cases of some cancers. So when I read that, I thought, okay, this is just a nice, achievable number to aim for. And then obviously the more you do, the better, but it's more... How can I get people to start and to have this toolkit? How can we stack these snacks onto things that we're doing day to day, like brushing our teeth, like every time the kettle boils, if you're a coffee lover and you've got those few minutes, you're making your coffee.
I'm often reheating my coffee, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So in that time, I would love you to be doing maybe 10 squats, 10 press-ups. That's the queen of upper body moves. You could just do them against the wall. I go into workplaces and I want to see this become normal, so that you have healthy, happy employees.
And as women, we tend to not have much upper body strength.
No,
so the transformation you get from doing just a little bit of that is phenomenal, isn't it?
I mean, press-ups, I could never do anything. And now, obviously, because it takes that sort of patience, time and consistency every day. But if you just did 10 against the wall to start off with, that's where I've started myself and I start all women. Or you can move to the countertop. So, if you're cooking, if you're boiling the kettle, just get 10 done and obviously then progress. But it's so amazing when you see that over time, you will see that progression. And that's the key with strength training. It's the progressive overload. Like, how can we keep challenging and growing our muscles? Because it's very hard to build lean muscle mass once, you hit the sort of menopausal years. And it's something, that I'm working on. And let's bust those myths like you touched on how we're going to look. Gosh, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. Trust me, you haven't got enough testosterone to bulk up. We're not going to look like big bodybuilders. But it's also, I feel, the fact that I can now do pull-ups, like something that I never imagined to do. And it took time. It took a few years of me doing all the upper body exercises in the book and in my YouTube and Instagram. I mean, things that you have to do day to day, from things like press-ups or dips or, shoulder presses and back strengthening. I had chronic back pain in my 20s when I worked in the city.
Right.
And so many physios saw me and said, oh my God, you've got terrible, chronic back condition. And now, touch wood, I've trained my back like a proper workout, just 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever I can fit in, but it's weekly. And I have seen the difference it makes. So the fact that I can now pull my body weight up into a pull-up.
Amazing.
No, but it's empowering, right?
Sounds amazing.
But I hope it inspires women. It doesn't have to be your goal, but let's build up strength physically and mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you are, a inspirational personal trainer, but you're also a mum. And as we know, being a mum can be, quite busy, juggling all sorts of responsibilities all at once. Mm-hmm. So maybe tell us how you find that balance in your day-to-day routine, and how do you manage to juggle it all? You also found time to write this book whilst being a personal trainer, raising a family. How did you manage it all?
I feel like I've got a guardian angel up there that's kind of guiding me through this very surreal last few years. It is a juggle, I won't lie. I feel like, the more you do self-reflection, right? Like over the last few years, so many things have happened that, first of all, you think they're coincidences. And then I I touched on the fact that I'm Jane, and I do believe in like destiny and karma, and I get so much joy out of what I do that I feel somehow I'm making it work. And the family have been so supportive, from my husband to my parents, my mother-in-law to the kids as well. They can see that mum is loving what she's doing. And I guess I've made them part of it as well, from the days in the pandemic. And like all of them have been instrumental in some shape or form on this journey of mine and helping me. And like they've been part of this with me, which is kind of like a team effort. I juggle most days, and I guess like all of us, it's just about prioritizing and not overcommitting. I've changed my attitude, even over the last 2 years where I've really had that that last stage of perimenopause that actually I've been going through from since I qualified, but I never quite realized, I probably was in perimenopause and getting the symptoms bang on time when I qualified as a PT at the age of 40, and then suddenly became public facing, and my periods were all over the place, and I was getting the bouts of anxiety and the sleepless nights and, a lot of the symptoms. And I mean, it's been a journey, but I feel like, over the last 2 years, especially when I had the chance to write the book, it was just one of those goals, that I thought, okay, it would be lovely to have everything I believe in and do some more research and have it as a legacy. Because my mum actually wrote 2 books, and I've always, she's my inspiration. Yeah, shout out to my mum. Yeah. She, like me, she actually didn't have a big career at first. She was, a very traditional Indian housewife. She was very well educated, but she devoted all of her time to bringing me and my brother up, and she found her passion in food, and she was an amazing cook. But when we got into secondary school, she did a charity auction and decided to give out cookery classes, and from there her career started on the food side, and she researched the science behind food for her last book, Feel Good with Food, which is why I've just picked up Feel Good with Lavina.
The family theme, yeah.
I know, it's really bizarre that we she's obviously an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
But, I watched her as well. Like, times were hard when they came in the 60s with nothing. And my dad and her, started everything from scratch. But she made it work. And I think it's when you have this passion, right? And you surround yourself with the right people. And obviously, I get incredible opportunities. So I'm grateful for all of them. I do a lot of gratitude journaling every day. It's just the fact that I think we need to kind of celebrate our wins, but also be so grateful for anything that comes our way. And I guess I'm more kind to myself. I do unfortunately have to say no to things now. I have to prioritize the family and my own health and my own time. Yeah. But as you can see, I get so much joy out of it.
It sounds like you've got the balance right, really, and that kind of because so many mothers either are too harsh on themselves, they carry around this guilt, or they neglect themselves, or both.
Yeah, it's hard.
And
it's really hard.
Do you have any tips for these women who, are thinking, well, I want to get into the exercise snack, but I've got to balance my family and I am neglecting myself. I always come last. I mean, you mentioned about learning to be kind to yourself. What are your tips for those women who are not even thinking about being kind to themselves?
Okay, we've got to another reframing, but I always say now to women, and especially, I guess, going back to my community where it's a lot of I used to live with my in-laws, like there's still joint families, or there's still a lot of obligation to care for others in your family around you. And I think that's across the board with women, right? We're just givers and we're always thinking about other people. But I always say to women that if you don't look after yourselves, how are you going to look after everyone around you? And it could just be these moments of self-care. Like if you open up my book on the self-care snacks, or there's like a mood menu at the back, which is literally like, I'm feeling stressed or I've got no time. And there's a selection of snacks from everything like just having a self-care snack, like a moment to yourself where it might be just going out in the mornings with your coffee, with your shoes off, just so you're grounding. And there's a lot of science behind, walking barefoot and connecting with the earth, getting the sunlight, into your natural eyes before midday. That's going to kickstart your circadian rhythm and help your sleep. To taking those just few deep breaths, even before you've got out of bed. I often do it in the morning now. I just do that breath snack before I get out of bed alongside my pelvic floor, because otherwise I'll forget. But it's those tiny little moments that I really think we need to give ourselves. And I'm not asking you to go off on a retreat or, have a full day out. But if you could just make time for those small moments and realize how important it is that we need to look after ourselves. It's again thinking about the future, right? And how we continue to do all the incredible things that us women do for everyone around us. But yeah, there's a whole piece, I think, that we need to start putting ourselves first and prioritize ourselves. So, those 3 goals for the day that I've got in there, like as a journaling exercise in the book, it's often just make sure I go out in nature for what I call the feel-good walk, because I know I was never an outdoor person. I do now have a dog, so he's great reason to go out. But I can't live without nature now. It's become such a non-negotiable. And the research I did around nature, from everything from these fractals, geometric shapes that we see in the trees and coastlines and everything around us, plants, bushes, grass, everything, from phytoncides, which are immune boosting, natural chemicals that trees give off to protect themselves. And then when we take them in, it boosts our immunity and it boosts those killer T cells, right, which are the cells that we want to fight against things like cancers. Nature has been like a savior for me, so I can't go through a day without making sure I've got out, even if it's for 10 minutes. Please, do something for yourself, even if it's a simple walk and you switch off your devices and you just have a bit of time for yourself. But it's carving those moments out and making sure we do them.
Yeah, I agree. And what you said earlier on about how you're really no good to others if you're no good to yourself, it's so true. And even beyond that, I think as mothers or women, we're also role models to other people in our lives. So if we've got kids or daughters or sons, and if we're neglecting ourselves, and that's kind of the norm, then for them they'll see that as being potentially an influence in their life. So the impact that looking after yourself can have is actually a much more positive thing for other people in your life as well.
100%.
And I think sometimes women don't recognise that, or they don't take the time, as you say. So it's those little pockets of time that will help women find time to look after their bodies, but also to appreciate that looking after themselves means that other people in their life benefit.
Definitely.
Now, your YouTube channel was a sensation during COVID, and you offered these wonderful workout classes. But actually, you've continued to offer free health and fitness training classes post-COVID. Why have you continued to offer them?
I love them. I just love the feedback that I get. I love the fact that I can, on Zoom, I can see the people joining. But, anytime I get a comment, be it Instagram or YouTube, it's just so rewarding. When I hear these personal stories, to be honest, most days, even on the days where I think, oh God, because obviously my motivation can slump. I'm human, and I can go through those phases of like, oh my goodness, I can't keep up with social media because I don't have a team. I'm like a one-woman roadshow.
Really?
Yes.
You're quite busy on social media.
Yeah, I don't know how it's kind of, Instagram has kind of exploded. So I apologize.
Yeah.
I do try and respond to every comment myself on the post, because I'm just so grateful to everyone that has like supported me on this journey. So, that's good. This is a good chance to thank everyone that every comment, every like, every little DM really means a lot to me. And I do personally, try and read them, respond to them. They can sometimes go through a little black hole in Instagram or wherever it is. So I apologize. But I continue them because when I see someone tell me that either it's helped them or their loved one or their mum or whoever it is, that feedback is just the thing that keeps me going, right? So it's like it fuels me with motivation. And I just feel like I just want to share the fact that all the tools are free. They're backed by science. There's so much that we can do, especially in your space. And we know how this can impact so many women. And I just hope it gives someone a bit of hope and just a good starting point to just start investing in their health. And it's not just physical health, it's just like mental, long-term future-proofing, all of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, and look, it's so important to make the kind of classes that you have available to everybody, make them accessible, because a big barrier, I suppose, for a lot of people in their everyday lives is the cost.
Oh, totally.
And it's free to go out for a walk, but actually to understand or to have the motivation that you might be able to offer them for free is much more motivating. But you mentioned very earlier on, actually, that you don't need equipment to reach your fitness goals. Can you tell us more about that? Because, for a lot of people, equipment, there's either no space or it's too expensive.
Yeah.
And so how do we get around not using equipment?
I'm looking around the room for safe objects here. So tin cans, plastic bottles, you'll see I have them all laid out on YouTube every week. I mean, there's hundreds saved, and there's different playlists. There's exercise snacks, there's lots of different ones. But the feel-good workouts, you'll see we have safe household objects, and that came from me just using them in the pandemic, because I was thinking, okay, we can't even buy fitness equipment at the time because the prices were just through the roof. Everyone was starting to train from home, which was probably the best thing that came out of it. From my perspective, it's given people that confidence to do the home workouts. But even resistance bands we couldn't get, so I always say use a pair of old tights, something with a bit of stretch. You don't need to have the fancy equipment. Obviously, with strength training, I want you to do things safely and with correct form and technique. So I'm always talking through all my workouts, trying to explain exactly how to do the movements. The book has QR codes to videos. I really wanted that because I don't want people to get injured, especially when it comes to lifting weights. Using a rucksack, even on your back, if you can't, find something suitable in the house. I've had people use milk cartons filled with water and then sand or rice to make them a little bit heavier. Or I often say, you do your lunges, your squats, put a rucksack on your back. You could fill that up with all the naughty things, from a couple of tin cans of Coke to bottles of them getting heavier. Ideally, yes, with strength training, I would love women to continue progressing with weight. And if you can invest in, I'm thinking, 3 kg and 5 kg dumbbells, because things have got more affordable now online, and we know that this sort of industry is booming. But you really don't need to have any fancy equipment. And the best way to start really is with your own body weight. But as you progress, you could then, if you're into it, I would love you to keep getting stronger and getting those muscles, more challenged so that we continue to grow them in development. But everything you see is things that you can do from anywhere to the things that, we do in the workplace. Like even sitting now, we could just be doing heel raises. We could just be doing a few head circles. You could do my desk reset snack, the shoulders up, back and down. just checking in with your posture, pelvic floor, is neglected. All of these things you could do practically anywhere, anytime. So I would love, us to normalize exercise snacking. That's my goal. You often see me, on social media doing things in just my normal clothes. I'm not there particularly, always in gym gear. I'll be in a dress and I'll be squatting or doing star jumps or, just doing something fun out and about so that we can just get these little movement snacks into your day.
Yeah. And, I've noticed myself that if I have, I'm 51, and if I have days where I don't move a lot, which can happen, you can be stuck in front of your screen before you know it, you haven't got up in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I've noticed when I have days like that, I don't necessarily, everything stiffens up.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And the older you get, and it's something I've noticed more recently, and there's days when I move a lot, I don't have any of that. And I'm so conscious of the difference, that regular movement. It's like oiling a machine, isn't it? And the older you get, the more you need to just do that little kind of maintenance every day.
100%.
Yeah.
Mobility is something, when we think of mobility, yes, we want to keep more mobile, but I'm talking about just simple, quick flows where, like you said, we're oiling, there's synovial fluid around all the joints. So you're actually, by doing, like full circles, by maybe using a resistance band, and I say do a shoulder floss or a belt or a band, that you can lift your arms up and over. So you're actually getting your full rotation in the joints. That is going to loosen things up. And even for me, right, like now, I can feel the difference. Like when I was writing the book, I had to do the snacking approach to my writing because I just physically couldn't sit for those long periods of time. So I was kind of moving around. I would do like short bite-sized little snacks in between. I think once you start, and especially as we age, we start losing things like estrogen starts declining, and that obviously is in every cell of the body. But even for older people, like just the fact that we are slouching more, we're sitting using technology, we're watching TV in the evenings. I've got a sofa snack, I've got an ad break snack. I've got things that hopefully you can try and start slotting into just what you're doing in your day to day, because it's about how we can make these changes long term and they can be sustainable, right? It's not just like a sort of quick fix. I want them just to become part of your everyday habits as such. So
that's brilliant. And one big thing that you address, we think a lot about, given that we are very concerned about everything being backed by science, and I know your work is too, is this kind of world of kind of mass information. Everything's accessible, but then can equally be confusing. What are your tips for people who are listening to you, who want to get on with their snacks? They have your book, but what are your tips for dealing with this world of misinformation which we are bombarded with every day? And what are some of the biggest myths that we need to bust?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such a confusing space, social media as well. There's just so much misinformation. There's always new fads and new things that you've got to try. So always try and kind of curate your feed. Like I've done a whole section on social snacking, like the fact that actually the research showed that social connection, so even just you and me being in person and meeting, and this social connection is probably the biggest, most important thing for a happy, healthy life. But I've also done another section on social media because obviously I'm on social media and I'm using it as a platform to hopefully get evidence-based, scientific facts out there in an accessible way to help people. You've got to almost curate your feed, and I think you'll soon start realizing what sort of information you like, and the algorithm really plays on that, right? Once you start looking at a certain thing, it will just feed you more and more of that. So I guess follow people that you feel you can trust, and hopefully most people are either stating studies, if you're concerned, or they've got the credentials. Like always check, especially in nutrition and the fitness space, are they actually qualified? Have they got those qualifications? Are they actually doing this for other reasons? Like always kind of go with your gut is what I say.
What are they selling?
What are they selling? Yeah. I mean, that's like a big sort of, I guess, alarm bells. You can often see through people. So I think with social media, you can start curating your feed and following people, and just don't follow the people that you're sort of dubious about. And then also the backing of, obviously, like I'm now, I was on a mission to try and help as many people as possible. So after the pandemic and after that, incredible honor of getting the MBE, I was like, okay, this is really crazy. And now I'm just going to go for it. It kind of gave me that confidence. So I reached out to various charities like Diabetes UK and Age UK, Wellbeing of Women, Alzheimer's Society. So I'm an ambassador for various charities, which are those types like Breast Cancer UK that we know that are providing trustworthy, reliable, science-backed information, right? That we have to be careful where we get that information from. So I would always just say, suss out the person really well and go with your gut, right? I think your intuition will tell you, and always find things that work for you. I think there's a lot of pressure to be doing, you don't have to do all the things that I've listed in your day. You've got to just start and find things that work for you and your body. There may be things that your body won't allow you to do. I've had people that have come out of surgery. I've had women with breast cancer. There's groups that have bought the book and have taken it on, and everyone's so individual, right? I might be telling you to squat, but your joints and your legs just might not be feeling it. So you've got to find something a little bit easier. Maybe it's the breath work. Maybe it's just simple stretches, mobility. Just know that everything you do around investing in your health is going to be of benefit, but don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you've come across, and we get this sometimes, where people will come to us who maybe have had a breast cancer diagnosis, and they'll look at the information we provide and the advice that we provide, and will see it as a really positive thing, but may also feel that they're being held responsible for their health condition. And so for us, it's very much about sharing with them that, the science tells us that there are some risk factors we can change. And the science tells us, for example, with physical activity, that can help reduce our risk. But it doesn't guarantee that we're not going to develop breast cancer, for example. And it's a very delicate message to share with people when they will also benefit from taking on that advice. But it's not necessarily going to guarantee that those preventable diseases can be prevented. Do you come across that, and how do you kind of respond to people who have those concerns?
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee in life, right? I'm obviously trying to do everything I share. I'm living and breathing it, but tomorrow anything could happen to me or you, right? There's no guarantee in life, but I guess we've got to try and focus on the things that we do know can help because of the research and the science. And, women's health is, thank God, having a moment, and we're going to get more research in these areas. It's not just exercise alone. It's the nutrition. It's eating well. It's nourishing our bodies, not depriving them. It's our sleep. Sleep is like the foundation. And I've struggled with my sleep from being a mum, over the last 20-something years to going through perimenopause. But I know I've even got a nap snack, things that if I can't get that good night's sleep, and if I really need that nap and I time it right, and, I've done all the science on how long and what time of the day, if I do that, I know it's going to help my energy, and I know I'm going to feel better. But sleep is the foundation, because without sleep, you're not going to feel like doing anything like that I've suggested. Alongside that, it's the stress reduction. I always think that the things that we've talked about, and just because of our fast-paced lifestyles, you said everything is just so quick, and our attention spans are short, technology, everything is just picking up pace. And this is something that we've got to instill in the younger generation as well, right? So I want, your daughters to be equipped with these tools. I did a TED talk for 100 16-year-olds, and my boys said that's the hardest audience because they're all boys.
Absolutely, that would terrify me.
Literally, I know 18 minutes without any auto cue, off by heart, and I was like, oh my goodness, am I going to remember this? But I got them all doing the breath snack, and I turned it around and I said, exercise makes you smarter. My title was Exercise for Sanity, Not Vanity.
That is clever.
And growing your brain cells, and how this is going to help you in your exams and those stressful moments. And mental health, if we think about children, that's a whole other demographic that we need to try and get these habits in. The earlier that we can, the better. And then social connection that I touched on, right? So it's not just exercise. We've got to try and think about all the other things that we can do. And just make a start, because there is no guarantee in life. No. But, what I hope you take away from this conversation is that there's a whole vast array of things that maybe, even if you just pick one a day, have a snack size SMART goal, going back to my old project manager days, and just say to yourself, I'm going to go for a walk after every meal, and it might just be round the block, like move after meals. That's going to help balance my blood sugars. That's going to help with digestion. It's going to help with my stress levels, my energy, my productivity, my mood. Or I'm just going to do 10 squats, as Lavina said, when the kettle's boiling.
Yeah.
I guess, there's it's just giving someone a little bit of hope and just make that start.
Brilliant advice. So you are a fantastic role model, and you live your life by it.
Thank you.
Do you have any guilty pleasures?
Oh, I don't normally read the questions in advance, but I do have lots of guilty pleasures. I'll say I'm a huge foodie.
Yeah.
For me, you may Google me and look up, and there's still images of me. Gosh, when I first qualified, and my husband and I both went through a transformation, physically together. And we just took these pictures of us in a photo shoot, like fitness pictures, and they just went a bit viral. And I cringe now because they're still out there. But you'll see now, I hardly ever show my abs or anything like that. I don't want to strive for a six-pack. I feel like at this point in life, it can be detrimental. It's more about my health. But food plays a huge part of my life, and I just can't deprive it, especially with, my amazing mum, who's the chef and cook and writer and everything. So guilty pleasures on the food side, I love my pizza, pasta, chocolate. I don't drink alcohol. I do feel like that was one of the biggest changes that I made, that I don't actually talk that much publicly about. Like, people know, when I first stopped drinking in my late 30s, around the time that, I was studying to become a personal trainer, it was a lot of peer pressure and why are you not drinking? And now it's become a lot more socially accepted. I'm so glad. And we know that obviously in the breast cancer space, this is one of the most important things that people can do is limit and hopefully cut down, completely eliminate alcohol. To reduce your risks. But I do have guilty pleasures on the food side because I just love my food and I can't take that enjoyment away from it. But everything's about balance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I will go and have a lovely Italian meal, and you'll probably see me doing my squats and heel raises and press ups and things after the meal. But it's just part of the Lavina restaurant experience now.
Yeah. And who doesn't love pizza and pasta? I mean, we all do. And it's nice to know that actually, even when we follow, science-backed advice to stay as healthy as possible, we can still enjoy.
Yeah,
we don't take the enjoyment out of life.
Not every day.
Yeah.
But, when I have it, I absolutely love it.
Well, our readers will have your book to look into, but they'll also be really interested in hearing anything that inspires you, any books or podcasts or films that you'd like to share with us and our listeners.
Oh, thank you. Well, of course, my mum's book, which is self-published, is actually available on my website, but Feel Good with Food, because it is, I guess, Tim Spector said your mum was 20 years ahead of the game.
Wow.
And she did the research all about the science behind food. And it's something that we're very proud of because I typed up when I was pregnant with my youngest son, so 17 years ago. And that's what kick-started my I guess, wellness journey, made me realize the importance of nutrition. So there's a lot in there. And then I was actually, I showed you before we came on here that I was carrying a book in my bag today on the tube. And it's something that I, took on holiday. Mum has given me. And it's a book by Robin Sharma, and it's called Who Will Cry When You Die?
Sounds tragic.
It sounds tragic. And I was like, oh gosh, just the title, right? It's going to... it's actually it's so incredible because it's got 101 very short, all like these sort of bite-sized ways to live your life, that it's all about how you can enjoy the moment and make the most of your life. It's all about kind of how you can make that impact, leave that legacy. And it kind of makes you feel like you're equipped with just simple things. It's very along sort of similar lines, but he's an incredible writer. And, his books, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, I don't know if you've read that.
Yes.
These are all inspiration from my mum. So she gave me this book. But I just think it's a really nice, it's like a little pocket-sized book. And it just makes you think about how you can get the most out of your life with the most purpose, with the most happiness and joy and fulfillment. So, I kind of
Sounds
really
intriguing.
recommend that one.
Well, we'll be sure to include all of those in the show notes. So finally, really, a word from you and what your plans are. Have you got what happens next? What next for you? You've achieved so much. You're continuing to offer, obviously, the free YouTube training classes. But what's on your bucket list that you want to achieve?
Oh, gosh. I find this question really difficult. And especially in midlife, I feel like all our lives we've been like, oh, gosh, what's next? What's next? And everything that's happened over the last, 7 or 8 years has been so surreal that I am now in this sort of phase where I'm just enjoying the moment. And I'm actually kind of having a pause. I'm continuing to do all the things that I love, and I hope I can continue them for as long as possible. I mean, the goal would be to help as many people as I possibly can around the world. Maybe I went into Dubai and the UAE and did some workshops and talks and things out there, which was amazing. I'd love to expand that and go into different areas. I'd love to get exercise snacking into every organization and workplace and school and care home. The chair-based workouts. My grandmother was in a care home, so I'm very passionate about getting the free resources out there. Just, I guess the mission is just to continue and try and help as many people from whatever background, whatever age, whatever ability you have to try and embrace some of these free concepts. So
it's
nothing specific.
Well, it's pretty specific, and actually, it sounds ambitious. It's such a great concept that I think, and having met you and what you've achieved so far, I've got no doubt that this is going to be something we'll hear a lot more about. Thank you. I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful story, sharing your time, and also it's been great to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me, and can't wait to do more with Breast Cancer UK. You're doing amazing things, so thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be Well podcast, brought to you by Breast Cancer UK, a prevention charity supporting people to build healthy, lifelong habits and reduce their risk of developing breast cancer. You can start your personal prevention journey right now by taking our prevention quiz. Just click on the link in the show notes.